past traumas has to be considered non-existent if they don't manifest. If they manifest, investigate the nature of this psychological suffering.
What I wanted to talk to you about is trauma. And my experience has been that a body-mind that did experience a lot of trauma. So my question is the path any different for people with trauma? Or is it the same? Is it really that all your trauma is just a belief to be a separate self? I understand that. But the effect that that trauma can have on your body can be difficult to deal with.
We have had accidents in the past, illnesses, and we don't remember the scars in our body. Some of the scars may have, or some of these accidents may have led to permanent disabilities. But as long as there is no current physical pain, they are like non-existent. If we establish a parallel between these physical traumas of the past and psychological events that have happened to us, meaning what? To this body-mind. In this case, to this mind. If these traumas are forgotten, they are very much like the scars of past injuries that don't generate pain any longer. There is no need in this case to go back to these scars. It would be like scratching the scars to reawaken the pain that used to occur on these locations of the body. If, however, there is current psychological suffering, then we have to do something about it, but not going into the past, dealing with the situation now, because the pain is not in the past, or the psychological suffering is now, and it is always predicated upon the belief to be a separate entity. You see, if we believe that we have somehow to go to the past and take care of all of these residual scars of past events, we spend our life doing that, and we will give a new life to these past traumas. And so that's the main difference between the approach we have here, we follow here, and the psychological approach. The psychological approach kind of reinforces the notion of being a separate individual. And it is this very belief, this very notion, that is at the very root of all psychological suffering. So, to put it in a nutshell, past traumas has to be considered non-existent if they don't manifest. If they manifest, investigate the nature of this psychological suffering and see that it is always predicated upon ignorance.
I'm not going to say that you're wrong, because you're not wrong. You're completely right. But in my experience in the past 4 or 5 months, if you talked to me 4 or 5 months ago, I wouldn't be able to have heard what you just said at all. It's only now after, because my experience was all of my trauma came to the surface, and it was just something that I had so much resistance built up to it that it was just something that I needed to experience.
Yeah, many of us come to this path seeking a psychological relief. It was my case. But at some point we discovered that psychological relief is not the solution, that the solution is the disappearance of ignorance. Then there is a shift that takes place. Now, if you said, yes, I came to this path, but I couldn't understand it, well, something stuck to you that made you come back.
Yeah, because it's working.
Perhaps it was not understood intellectually, but there was something else. And whatever it was has taken you back here again and again. So,
because it's the only thing that has worked. I'll say it again, because there is nothing else that has worked for me in years.
Yes.
And
the psychological approach, my teacher used to say, is like rearranging a bulky furniture in a small house or in a small apartment. You can manage to have some room so that you can live in this apartment, but it will never be comfortable unless you open the door and have the bulky furniture removed. So in the psychological approach, we remain within the mind. The door is not open. Whereas here, there is an openness. The door opens. We are bigger than the mind.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next question, which is part of my problem with, it's not a problem, I just wanted to hear what you have to say about this, because if your emotions are stored in the body, then is there a chance that if you just investigate your way out of them, that you're kind of spiritually bypassing them and they stay in the body even after that you're with yourself? I know I feel like it's kind of a stupid question, but
there is a misunderstanding here. It is not the emotions that are stored in the body. It's a memory of ignorance. It's not at all the same.
Okay.
Ignorance then, in turn, triggers emotion, has the power to trigger negative emotions. But what is stored are not the emotions, they are the... Now, when a state of depression or a state of fear becomes chronic, the somatic symptoms of this fear also becomes kind of rigid and fossilized, and somehow at some point we kind of filter them out, albeit not fully. We filter them out. We don't feel them with the same intensity and the same clarity we would have experienced them in a situation of clear and present danger. They are there in the background, like some sense of impending doom, like some discomfort that we don't want really to look into, that we want to keep in the closet. So here we kind of
Good.
have the courage to open the closet and to let all the skeletons come out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the more that I'm going down this path, the more that you can't run away from anything. And that's why I don't get when people argue about it, that it's kind of like this spiritual bypass, but it's really not. So my last question
It's a bypass of, yes, it's a true bypass of useless manipulations.